Hello, everyone. How are you today? Thank you for joining our lovely webinar. And today we are going to talk about a very interesting topic about business analysis on data projects. But before we start, let's check if our chat is working properly. So please, first of all, let me know what do you think about the school music that we had at the beginning? Don't you love it? I mean, it's amazing. So yeah. Oh, okay, several cools. So we'll usually do this thing before we start. Just let me know where are you joining this webinar from. So for me personally, I am joining this somewhere around a city called Dnipro in Ukraine. And I see I have another Dniprovian with me here in the chat. So let me see. Let's okay. We have oh my god, a lot of locations. So we have Lviv, we have Warsaw, we have Germany, another Dnipro here. We have Toronto, Canada, Ljubljana, Slovenia. Wow. Nuremberg. Wow. Oh my god, Sofia, Vinnytsia, Irpin. So we have very a huge audience today. That's amazing. That's amazing. Okay, a lot of places here. I see the chat works fine, by the way. So you may use this chat to comment on whatever we're going to talk about today, or to ask your questions, or maybe to share your thoughts. So we have also like Rivne, we have Wroclaw, we have Bratislava. Wow, Chile. Oh my God, Colombia. Wow. UK, Cyprus, Belgium, all around the globe. Fantastic. And of course, some more Dniprovians in the chat as well. Ask us where we are originally from. The list of countries will be short, yeah, but not the list of cities, I believe. So that's fine. All right. So let's give a few chances to more participants to join. As usually, we'd like to start this webinar a little bit slow. So, oh man, I forgot to turn my light on. Oh yeah, now you can see me better. So first of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Kirillo, and I am the Business Analysis Office Director in the company called SoftServe. And a few words about this company, in case you don't know what this company is about. We're like a consultancy and services and software development company, which has expertise in every domain. You name it, we have it. So we have been doing software development for 30 years already. And we have quite a huge business analysis office, which was established in 2012. So it means we're already like what? I'm bad with my math. 11 years, right? Of business analysis history in SoftServe. And we have over 400 business analysts spread across 12 countries, maybe even more. You never know. And yeah, so we have a huge community, and this is what we've been doing recently. We've been launching this cool webinars for all of you guys to join and to share your experience, share your knowledge, and learn something new from our wonderful speakers. We also do have several educational projects, and I'm going to introduce you to them real quick before we kick off the real session. So first of all, we have this course called Arts and Crafts of Business Analysis, and it starts like this Monday. So if you are interested in that course, hurry up, because it's like, as I said, it starts. Was it started already? No, next Monday. I'm on vacation actually, so so the dates are actually like mixed up in my head. So this course is about the enterprise business analysis, and it's designed for experienced business analysts. So this is not for like newcomers in business analysis. It's rather for experienced business analysts who have enterprise clients or have experience of, or want to experience working with enterprise projects. So there are a lot of workshops dedicated to some sophisticated and advanced techniques, which may help you to advance in your enterprise projects. So we do also have the course for beginners, which is called Business Analysis Foundation, and it's also like about to start in September. So if you are starting your career as business analyst, or even thinking about starting your career, this can be an interesting course for you. So we will touch upon all the basics of business analysis, all the fundamental things, topics, themes, etc. And again, as I mentioned, if you're thinking of starting your career in this direction, please consider this wonderful course. The next one is Certification Bootcamp, and I'm going to talk about this one a little bit more today because we are like advertising for that specifically. So this is the course dedicated for preparation for IABA certification, ECBA, CCBA, and CBAP. We're actually working really closely with IABA, and as you can see, all of our courses has PDUs, and they all are endorsed by IABA. So I will talk about the certification bootcamp on the next slide. And just another course that we have is 10 key techniques for product ownership analysis. So this one is actually a very practical course. There is like 10 workshops which will help you to learn how to be a better product owner, I would say. It's kind of built around CPOA certification, but it's not a course for preparation. It's rather a practical course to learn some cool workshops that you as a product owner or like future product owner can introduce to your teams, to your projects, and gain some good outcomes out of that. So this one will start in November later this year. So we will have a chance to talk about that one like on our future webinars. So a bit more details about this course, which I mentioned, Certification Preparation Bootcamp. As I mentioned, this course is designed strictly to prepare you for passing the certifications. We have this 3 levels of certification from IABA. And as you see in the course plan, we touch on the major BABOK sections. All of the course trainers are certified business analysts. They can share their own experience of passing certification. You will also get some examination tips and tricks. You will learn BABOK, and you will also learn how to pass certification. Let's put it like this. And from our previous group, I think I'm bad with numbers, but I think it's like around 50% of the group already certified. So I think we got a very good result, especially from our latest group that was graduated. So if you're thinking of passing professional certification from IABA, please consider this course as your preparation bootcamp for this. So it starts September 18th, and you have still some time to register. And I will share a QR code that you can scan. And my colleagues will also share a link where you can find more details about those courses. And what else is very cool about this course? We have their eligibility check. So you can, and you will get the link with the materials that we will send out after this webinar. So if you registered, you will get this information. So you can pass the eligibility check and see if you are eligible to passing the certification. And I think it will be a cool start for your certification journey. So here's the QR code that I've mentioned about earlier. Use your phones to scan it. You will get to the page where we have information about all our courses. And I see Marta have put this information also in the chat. So Marta, if you can, please add this link to our YouTube broadcast or what is it? Stream. Stream is the better word. So the people who are watching us in YouTube could also see this link. And there was a question, do you have plans for arts and crafts in autumn? Nope. This year, this will be the last chance to get arts and crafts this year. So if you're thinking about it, hop on this train. It's it starts this Monday, so you have still some time. But nothing will happen with in terms of arts and crafts later this year. So it's really some type of course that we do really a couple of times a year, and we already had one earlier this year, and this one will be the second time. There's a lot of trainers, and it's hard to get all things around their schedule. So all of the trainers are professionals, practitioners, business analysts. So as you know, we're very busy with our busy schedules, etc. So if you're thinking about it, Yevgen, please hop on this train in August, or wait until the next year. Okay, so I think we had this covered. I hope everyone have scanned this QR code. And now it's time to introduce our speaker today. So with my huge pleasure, I introduce Anna Kosenko, who is a senior business analyst in SoftServe, a dear colleague of mine. A few facts about her. She has a master's degree in finance and worked as an asset appraiser at enterprises. I have no idea what that is, but it sounds really like really cool.
It sounds like really analytical related. So I'm saying
yeah.
like I was an analyst before I was a business analyst before I became IT business analyst.
Yeah, exactly. So neither did I. So maybe you can talk about what that is like later on, or if you get some questions about that. So Anna also, like from the very beginning of her career in business analysis, have been working on the ongoing on new data focused projects. So she's been lucky enough, or unlucky, I don't know. We will know today, to work on this specific like type of projects which are really like data focused, data related, and deals a lot of. I mean, every project deals with data, but I believe those projects deal with huge amount of data or complicated data stuff. She also developed and conducted several data-related trainings for business analysis community, and special thanks from me for that. We really appreciate those trainings and courses, and is also certified data management professional with CDMP certificate from DAMA International. Okay, so without further ado, I give to you Anna Kosenko, and let's kick off the session.
Yeah, thank you for such an introduction. I will start sharing my screen right away with you guys to just need to pick up the right screen. Yeah. And please tell me when you will be able to see it.
Yeah, we see it. It's like in the middle.
Okay. Okay. Then let's start the presentation. Maybe let me do this like that. Yeah. So let's start from the plan. Yeah. So what are we going to talk about today? So first, we will discuss what is that data project. As you might understand, maybe Kirilla doesn't know what is a data project. So we will find out today. Then we will discuss several techniques on a high level. Of course, we won't have enough time to cover them all in details, like the must-have skills and techniques that you are going to use if you are working on a data project. So the list of techniques are in front of you right now, but we will get to each one of them step by step. But before we start, actually, as we start, it's our first topic. Let's talk. What is a data project? And before I will give you my perspective, my understanding, I will ask you to share your insights, your understanding. Please go to Mentimeter website. You can use the code to log in or just scan this QR code on your screen and enter your answer to this question. What is a data project? And maybe someone, Anna, can share the outcomes of the voting. Anna, are you here? Will you help me with that?
Of course. So I will share my screen.
Yeah, and I will stop sharing. I'm really curious. Something complicated, big data. Okay, a lot of big data, database. That is a really applicable word here, the database. Tables, analytics, reporting. Yes, reporting, analytics, data storage, data as a main focus. Okay, yeah, a lot of analyze. Yeah, depends, but maybe data flows. Okay, it's moving so fast. Okay, business intelligence, architecture, and lots of data, multiple data sources. That's a pretty good answer from somebody who works on data projects, I guess. Integration, yes. Okay. And okay, we're having more answers coming, but SQL, yeah, SQL, I was waiting for somebody to enter that answer. Yeah. Yeah, do I see data warehouse there? Data workflow. Okay, I think we may pause. So of course, guys, since you all got here to this webinar, so I can see that you have your perfect understanding, correct understanding of what is the data project. And actually, I will reshare my screen once again, and I think you should already see it. And let's jump to an answer, my answer. Okay, so we can say that there are three main types, main groups of data projects. So group number one, data pipelines and data staging. So the goal of this kind of project is making data moving from one place to another place, and it's kind of ongoing thing, ongoing process. So it involves like collection, staging, storaging, modeling, and so on of data sets. So the main idea here is that you have data in one place and you have to move it into another place, to different data sources. The second type of data projects, let me check the time. Yeah, okay, is data processing and analysis. So in your answers, there was a lot of about analytics, about reporting. So data warehouses is all about this group of projects. So in scope, the goal of this project is to gather data in some place and then get some insights of this data using reporting or like more advanced technologies as data science, like machine learning. So all these relates to this type of data project. And the third, like the most common type of data project, I guess, since you are, I guess most of you are business analysts working on in IT, so it's applications. So not like, I don't know an application that can function without data. I don't know, maybe you can bring some examples, maybe the simplest ones. They don't have data sources, but every normal application needs data to function. So, and data projects that are in this group, applications, they are focused around building that data framework for a specific application, the database structure for a specific application that will support its like operational needs. So backend databases. Yeah, so these are the types, and I think we have an answer to what is data project. Now, what are the challenges? Why are these projects a bit different from the other projects? Well, some of challenges are pretty common, but the list of challenges that you can see, I brought them just from my experience. Yeah, and one disclaimer that I want to give you is that all examples that you will see in this presentation, almost all of them, I took them from my real project. So this is like all like real field experience. So the challenges. So majority of tasks that you will be working on, that you will be like creating for the team, are pretty technical. So, and this is the challenge, so that you should understand what to write, how to explain it, how to communicate. And it brings us to challenge number two, that business stakeholders, in many cases, they really struggle to understand what the requirements should be, like what are the challenges of these kind of products. And you need to be a good good explainer and teacher to handle that. Yeah, the challenge number 3 is that when you are working on data project, like it means that you're working with data. It means this data is coming from multiple sources. And in order to like really handle all this stuff, at the end of the day, you need to get familiarized with every part of the system that produces the data that you're working on. And in most cases, it's the whole system or multiple systems. Yeah, so, and this brings us to the next challenge, that data projects, they often include multiple stakeholders and complex communication and multiple dependencies on other initiatives. What do I mean by that? Like if you're working with the data, you are like the final destination of all of all happening in the system. Like if somebody changes something in an application, it affects you. So you have to take it into account. Like if somebody like develop a new feature in an application, they create a new like data sources and you are working on a reporting project, you have to encompass that change and you have to track it. And so you have to work with these multiple dependencies, tracking what other teams are doing, what's happening in every application that you are interacting with. And the last but not the least is non-functional requirements is a key challenge often. Like it's not enough in most cases to gather like only functional requirements, like what do you want to see, what data do you want in your reports, for example, or like in your data warehouse, or what data you want to be moved from source to destination. Like you can deliver that with these functional requirements, but it may work like too slowly. Like you may have some reporting that loads for, I don't know, 30 minutes. And in some cases it may be fine. But in some cases, like if it's operational stuff and somebody has to check this data like real time, it will not meet expectation. And fixing the performance issues may be actually in every case, it's really expensive. It requires like re-architecturing all the system, and you need to think about it from the very beginning of the project. Like what are your performance expectations? What are your scalability expectations? We'll talk about it a little bit in a little bit more details at the end of the presentation. Now let's move to the skills that are required to deal with all the stuff that I just mentioned. So number 1, working with data projects require to having solid technical acumen with working with data, like SQL, database management tools, data modeling, like all techniques that we'll cover briefly today. So it's really required. If you don't know that, if you cannot work with that, you will be like helpless on data project, really. So given the fact that these projects are technical and stakeholders, they struggle to understand the specifics, that challenge that I mentioned. So the really required skill, as I called it, creativity and great teaching and presenting skills, because you got to find ways, to explain some complex stuff in the ways so that non-technical person would understand it, or even technical person would understand some complex business logic stuff, like some calculations, some dependencies in data. So you really need to be a good explainer and teacher. So the next skill, effective learning. to digest a lot of new information fast. So what I mentioned, if you're working with a data project and data project is a destination point for where data from multiple parts of application or even different applications, it flows, then you have to be able to learn all business logic of all those applications. So you have to learn fast. And you, in most cases, like you don't have a luxury of having like half of the year to do that, like because you have to deliver your project like in a month, start delivering. So you have to really learn fast. Yeah, strong communication skills. Well, I guess it's really must-have skill for every business analyst on any project, but in this for data project as well. And thorough planning and team collaboration. So given the whole chain of dependencies that you have, you really have to track thoroughly what's happening around you in other system, in other parts of application or applications, to have control on what impacts your part, and communicating this. Yep. So that was all for challenges and skills. And we are going to key tools and techniques. Starting, yeah, let's cover them once again, the list. So glossary and data dictionary. Okay. Sorry, I jumped to the end of presentation. Let me quickly go back to where we were. Just a second. Yeah. Yeah, once again. So the key tools and techniques. Glossary and data dictionary, data flow diagrams, data modeling, SQL and data management tools, data mapping, and non-functional requirements, working with the non-functional requirements that I mentioned. So let's start from glossary and the data dictionary. So what do we need them for? We need to ensure, like starting the glossary and data dictionary is something that you start working on from day one when you start working on a new project with a new domain. Anyways, so you need to make sure that key business terms are used consistently by all project stakeholders. Like when we say client, everybody understands that this is a client, like whatever definition is that. So the glossary and data dictionary, they contain like these formal definitions of all business terms that used by organization, and it's really important that this should be agreed between stakeholders, like that, so that it's important not only to have that list, but it's important to share this list with all stakeholders and make sure that we all are on the same page. And the challenge here, and that is being solved by having a glossary and data dictionary, is that we need to distinguish between these synonymous terms that may be used like interchangeably outside the organization. Yeah, like the example, client and customer. So this can be different really entities for your project. Yeah. So let's look at some examples. So glossary. Here you can see an example of the glossary that I've put together. This is a part of it, put together for my recent project. So you can see the term, the possible alternatives, and the business definitions. So the key attributes, the key characteristics of glossary is that it's a list of terms, and it's with the definitions, and it's solution agnostic. So it's just the term, it's business related only, I will say so. So regardless of what application you are implementing in this organization, well, it's business related, but specific to organization. So these terms are used in this way, in such a manner. So this is something you start with. And then you move on to the data dictionary. Data dictionary is more technical, is a not more, it's a technical artifact that contains as well the terms and definitions and definitions, but in a way how the system understands it. And you include the technical attributes. Like in this case, it's also a part of my data dictionary on one of my projects. So you can see an entity here, the fields that are related to this entity, the descriptions, the data types, lengths, like whether it's required attribute, the primary key, something from database area. So there is no, like, you may include additional attributes to this data dictionary, but it's really valuable to have it on your project and to maintain it when some changes are being made to your data structures. You should update this as a source of truth as a reliable metadata for all teams working with the same data. Now, before we move on to data flow diagrams, maybe we have some questions in the chat. Do we have?
Yeah, we have. So first question, are there any approach how to describe requirements on data project? Or every time it is a custom set of descriptions that is valuable for the team and not always described as a user stories?
Well, personally, I always try to describe these requirements as user stories, but like, because every requirement, it eventually should bring some value to the end user. So even if you are adjusting some data structure on backend, there won't be any changes to user. Still, it's really important to identify that, so that part, like, why are you doing that? So your user may be data engineer, for example, or data analyst as well, that will be working with data, like, directly, not end user, like an application user. I'm not sure if I answered the question. So basically, there's no strict. I won't say that there is some. I can give you some guidelines how to write requirements for a data project. So I might bring some examples later. We might send you some examples in a follow-up, let's say, so, because I need to prepare them, make sure that no confidential data is exposed, and we will include them. Okay. Do we have other questions?
Yes. Second question, are developer skills and strong computer science background and an advantage for this role, except SQL?
I think yes, it will be an advantage, because you as developer will understand how application works, the data flows, for example, I don't know, APIs, like all that backend part, the logic. So I'm just not sure why except SQL. I mean, the easiest SQL should be, yes, available for every developer. But yeah, you as a developer at least should understand data structures, because how else you are working with an application.
And one more question, how to fast grasp details on a data project if you are joined before a go live?
Well, if you join just before go live and there's a week prior to go live, I guess there's no way for you to really there are impossible things, let's say. But if you have a little bit more time and like a month, let's say, well, it depends on the size of project, of course, and how many applications are involved. But I guess the fastest way to get familiarized is really find stakeholders, like subject matter experts, because there can be, there always can be a ton of documentations, but some of it is outdated, and it always takes a lot of time to go through every document, and you don't have that luxury. So personally, if I don't have if I need to get familiarized with some part of the system fast, I just find SME who, like, it may be business analyst from that direction, top choice. It may be architect or QA, also perfect choice. And just grab that guy or girl and book a meeting for 30 minutes or an hour so that he or she would guide you through the specific, at least on high level. So communication.
Yeah, Anna added to this question a year before. So,
sorry, could you repeat that?
A year before. So the author of this question add this detail.
I'm still not following. So you were added to the project a year before go live, or what?
Yes.
Well, if you have a year, I guess you really have a lot of time to get familiarized with every part of the system. Like, yeah, but it's still if you have more time, then start with documentation. Then again, if you have time, you may go and click through every part of application to get familiarized, with how it functions yourself. So also a good choice, but not that fast as talking with somebody who knows that. Okay, any other questions?
Just
Okay,
only a bit more details. A year and a complex project with 5 different systems, a project without FE, only backend. So
without front end, only backend. So there's nothing you can click. Okay, then if it's only backend project and you have access, you may request access to database, at least to get familiarized with the data structures, using some data management tools. Look through the documentation that they have, maybe data mappings, data flow diagrams. Again, talk with technical subject matter experts like architects if there's no diagrams, for example, available. So I guess I would have taken that approach, maybe starting from documentation. And yeah.
Thank you. So that's all questions for now.
Okay, then let's go to the second technique, data flow diagram. So data flow diagram, what are we using it for? So we need to understand it, the big picture, the big data picture. So in most cases, this is the first thing that I try to put together when I just joined the project. I try to draw this data flow diagram to include every part, big chunks of the system and how they interact in terms of data exchanging. So this is a picture that you see, it's from BBOK, I guess. So what do we see here? So what are the key elements of data flow diagram? So there are external entities that your system interacts with. There are data stores, data processes and data flows actually. So I think I don't really like this diagram, but we'll look at an example in a minute. So the key concept that I would like to stress out here is that on data flow diagram, you cannot say what is the sequence of these processes. You can see only direction, that data is flowing from this entity to your system. But when it happens, and this data is flowing from external sense entity to your system. But what happens first, you cannot say. There are other techniques for that. And we're not covering them today. So let's look at some examples. Example number one is the highest level of data flow diagram, which is known by the name of context diagram. Actually, this is the one that I start with, is drawing all external entities that our system interacts with. So in this case, we don't know what happens inside system because it's a lower level of detail. We just specify all our integration. So it's a real project example. I just removed the name of the system, changed it to generic system, but it's a real context diagram. So we can see that our system interacts with Google. So it sends some search parameters to Google. It receives company location. It interacts with Microsoft Dynamics. It sends like some company info there. It interacts with Stripe. Stripe is a payment system. So it sends some products and pricing, receives product payment results, so etc. All other third parties. So we specify the third party and what data are we exchanging with that third party system. The next level is what is going on inside your system and all data flows that are happening there. So this is also a real example from my project. So it's a bit custom with this color coding that I've added. So you can see we have some applications here, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 specific. Yeah, 6 our application specified with data stores, different data stores that these different applications have, and then we can see how data flows from these stores, between these stores, like from here, and this is our data warehouse, where eventually all data flows into, like, from every system through some Kafka connectors and data migration service. Yeah. So looking at the system, I can see what applications are in play and what data flows are there. So what are we working with? Do we have any questions at this point?
So we have a few questions, so let me just read it. So could you please make an example of user stories that describes just a data flow of some parts of the system without any regular users, or simply way it describes like information?
Like I mentioned, I haven't prepared the examples of user stores because I need to remove all confidential data from them, and we will send them over in a follow-up. But for example, if it's a data pipeline project, you can see here this red arrow, it says future scope. So we need to move some piece of data from here to here. So as a requirement, I would have created, so this data should be used by this system that is sourced in this system. It should be delivered to this system for some usage. So in this user story, I would say that me a user who will be interacting with this data in this system, like me as a questionnaire user. I want to have this data in my system in order so that I could, I don't know, do some use this data for scoring. And then in acceptance criteria, I would specify the exact data points that I need from this system as they are stored in that system, and the way how they should be stored in this system. So using data mapping. So we will look at example of data mapping in a few slides, because it's one of key technique. So the user story, what this data will be, the text of the user story, what this data is going to be used for, and as acceptances, what data in source and target should be there. Yeah, sorry, just one more quick comment. So the architect and technical team, they can create additional user stories, like purely technical user stories. For example, if it's Kafka, they can create separate story for Kafka producer and Kafka consumer. But at the end of the day, this will be tested based on those requirements, the final outcome that I put together in the main user story. Well, that was my approach, for example. Yeah, other questions?
I'm interested about SAP products and S/4HANA. Are they taking a big part of the market in this kind of projects?
I am actually not familiar with all those words that are mentioned here, so
That's SAP.
not sure that I can.
SAP ERP system.
Oh, it's ERP.
SAP
ERP, I know.
products and S4. This is the version.
I think yes, actually, because ERP system, I used to work with the ERP system. It was one of my former project, and yeah, there was also like some data flowing from other applications, like sales application, the CRM application, the payment application. Yeah, so this can be really a big part here, if we're talking about application projects, for example, application data projects. Yep.
One more question: how to evaluate yourself on the data project as a BA? Any KPIs or only feedback from customer? How to understand that you are doing the right thing and moving into the right direction? And how to understand that the artifacts that you are doing, they are useful as a BA, can create a lot of valuable diagrams, but we also need to update them regularly. So how to choose what should be done and what shouldn't?
I guess it should be decided for every case. So like, let's start from what artifacts from that part should be delivered. So you have to understand what is the audience for those artifacts, like will anyone use them? Well, for example, this diagram that you're looking at is being used currently in this project for onboarding, like every person, whether developer, QA, business analyst that being onboarded to our project, it goes through this diagram because it really gives like a full picture. So you have to communicate like with the team. So whether your requirements are good enough, also you can understand this from the feedback, like the constant communication with the team, like if it's sufficient, to check if everything is clear. So the quality measurement for requirement, I guess, is the clarity for what to expect for stakeholders and what to do for developers. So it's like a generic approach, I think, and it works for data project the same way. So in many cases, for data projects, you have to put together much more technical requirements for the team, for like to include much more details, because yeah, and when you elicit those requirements, you also have to dive into technical details pretty thoroughly, because there might be some like you may feel sometimes you need to choose, you need to actually look at the database and pick the proper attribute, you know, to be used at this case, like to confirm that it's a correct one, because the developer won't understand it. So you have to check yourself. Yeah, and about metrics, so I personally don't use any like KPIs or metrics to evaluate my performance. Maybe I'm just not there yet, but I'm getting, hopefully, with help of Kirilo, who's working on metrics in SoftServe.
We will help you. No worries.
Yeah. Okay. Do we have other questions?
Yes, one more question. Your latest flow diagram seems like an SOA system. Does BA should draw such a diagram?
Does what?
Does BA should draw such a diagram?
Why not? if this diagram does not exist, well, ideally the architect should be drawing this, but in many projects, the architect, they draw some solution when solution is being designed, then solution changes and nobody updates diagrams. So if you want to have something up to date, you just have to do it yourself. In many cases, that's what I did in this case, and how actually I did that. So when I joined the project, I had to again get familiarized with a huge system with multiple applications. Not all of them actually are on this picture even. And I talked to SMEs and I put together this data flow diagram, and I checked with architects whether it's correct. So that's how we did it. A common effort, let's say. Of course, you may ask an architect to do that for you, but he might not want to do that.
Thank you. That's all questions for now.
Yeah, and to make it clear, the BA is not the one who designs that, not. So this is done only for the sake of reverse engineering existing system. It's not a guideline for developers. It's not a like solution artifact, you know. So no, it's not something that we do at the very beginning. Okay, so let's move on. We have some more techniques to cover. So yeah. The next one is related to data modeling, and we'll talk about entity relationship diagram. It's a really must-have skill for anyone working on a data project. One of my favorite techniques personally. So what do we use it for? We use it for everything, like to elicit requirements, to analyze requirements and validate data requirements, and even with business stakeholders sometimes when it's not something too complex. So again, the general representation from BABOK is before you on the screen. So an entity relationship diagram is a diagram, is your data model basically. So you show entities, entities such like nouns like customer, order, products. So all stuff that entity is something actually that it's something that you collect information about in your system. So a product, it has some attributes like a name, ID, and something like that. A customer has attributes. So these are called entities or objects. In many cases, they are mapped to objects in programming. So yeah, so on this diagram, you reflect those entities and how they relate to each other. Like, let's go down to examples. It, I think, will be more clear. So there are 3 levels of this entity relationship diagram, and we'll take a look at each one of them. So the first one is conceptual entity relationship diagram, where you can see just entities on business entities on a high level. Stressing out that this diagram is business level. So it's not technical, it's something that you put together at the beginning of the project, where when you discuss with your stakeholders, okay, what are we going to be working with here? Like, what do we have in our system? Like, we have customer, order, we have product, we have staff, store, and how do they relate to each other? Like customer, one customer, this is a cross-foot notation that I'm using here. A customer may have multiple orders, but one order may be related to only one customer. Like, it's impossible, so that one order could be placed by 2 customers. Again, like product, order may have multiple products, but one product may appear in different orders as well. So it's like many to many here. Actually, I heard that this technique, this conceptual level entity relationship diagram, can be used as a concept, actually, mapping, even if it's not data project, but you're just joining, starting a new initiative, like everything is new to you, maybe new domain, and you may just put there the main concepts that you are facing with and try to link to establish the relationship between them and to get familiarized with a new domain or a new application using this technique as well. So it's really visual. Yeah, and this is something that you start your project with, or a new piece of functionality. Also, if you're just start discussing this with your stakeholders and there is some complex logic, and you really need to depict this interrelations, interdependencies between your objects. Yeah. Then when you have this, this is technology agnostic, let's say. So this is business level. Then you go down to the details, and you are building logical entity relationship diagram. So what you do, you just take your concept, entity relationship diagram, and you like keep collecting requirements with your stakeholders. It's business level as well, this logical diagram. So, so let's say you're asking, so okay, so we have customers. What information do we want to store about customers to collect? Like first name, last name, phone number. Okay, order. What do we want to know about order? Like who placed it, the status, the date, etc. And for every entity, you collect these attributes. And this is something that a developer can start working with, because these are your requirements for a database structure. It doesn't mean that database will look exactly the same way, but it gives a developer an understanding of what correct relationship from business perspective should be there. Yeah, and it's a base for a physical data model that we will take a look in a second. So a physical data model is a reflection of a real database, of implementable database design. So this is something that business analysts do not put together. So it's something that a developer puts together, and he adds some additional attributes here, like data types, like whether it's nullable, not nullable field. They specifies keys to link tables between each other. So a bunch of technical stuff can be present here. the developer might also consider some performance factors. So there you may see, like, for example, 2 entities here, but it will be just 1 table here. Given the performance, I'm not going to the weeds here, but this is the 3rd level, and this is how the actual database looks and this is being put together by engineers. And I think, yeah, I will pause here for questions if we have them.
Yes, we have. Who are usually the main stakeholders on such projects? Who do you validate and approve requirements with?
That's a very good question. So depending on the type of the project, and we might recall that we discussed 3 types of those data projects. So data pipelines, reporting, or applications. So if it's reporting, this is it, or data pipelines, this is our type of projects that I'm mostly familiar with. So these stakeholders, they are kind of well, you will in most cases you will have some product manager who is let's say responsible for reporting in analytics in enterprise, and as end users and subject matter experts, you will have those end users of reports, like, I don't know, accountants, sales guys. So, and when you validate your requirements, you have to go to them and check, hey, we're showing this data in the report. We derive this data from this and from these places, and we put it together in this way. So is it correct from your perspective? And he will say, oh yeah, or not, like maybe your logic is faulty somewhere. So a lot of really end users are your stakeholders here. Like the users, they can say that whether data is correct or not correct, basically. That is the main question.
And
Any other?
one more question. In case we have calculations including a few databases and a few stages of aggregation, could we illustrate these multiple steps using ERD? If yes, could you please share some insights?
Well, if we have several, if we're talking about data flowing through different steps, so the data flow diagram would be better option to display that, because entity ERD, it shows the structure of a single data source. It doesn't show how data moves between sources, how it changes. So it's like the screenshot of the single data source. And if you want to just actually, if you want to show how data transforms while it moves through different stages, like when it's in source, then it's on staging area, then it's in target, maybe, yeah, so 3 stages, then you may use data mapping to show those transformations, and we will take a look at data mapping examples in a moment.
One more question. Is a diff0 diagrams is applicable for usage in data projects?
Yeah, it's applicable to every project, I guess, and data project is not an exception here. So you gotta just have this to understand like all integrations that you have. Well, it's something that I put together at the very beginning in most cases, and then go straight into data flow level 1. So when I see what's happening inside the system. I mean, you always start from, higher level and go down to the lower levels to not drown in details from the very beginning.
Thank you. No more questions for now.
Okay, so let's move on. Data mapping, the technique that I mentioned several times already. The reason why, because it's really a must-have also for data-related projects. So also the same as entity relationship diagram, we use it to elicit requirements. I mean, to check the existing, if we want to check existing data flows, to analyze and validate requirements. So data mapping is a process when you match fields from one data set to another data set, and you specify how how data transforms maybe. So when it's in different data sources, the projects where you will use it in most cases are either migration projects, integration, or data warehousing. So migration project is a project when you have one data source that you are going to shut down, and you have to move all data that is there to the new data source and adjust the data structure to the new data source. And in order, so this new application will start using this data. Integration is pretty similar, with the only difference is that the source data source yeah, is not being shut down, so it keeps functioning, and you have like continuous data flows there. So migration is something that happens one time, like a one-time operation. Integration is something that is happening constantly. Data warehousing projects, and the example that my data flow diagram that you saw is related to data warehousing. So these are projects when you have multiple applications, but you need to have a single source of truth for data from all of them, for the sake of some reporting and analytics in most cases, or like data science project. So in order to extract some insights from this data, okay, to make some actions, yeah, based on it. In this case, you also have like continuous data flows just from multiple sources. In integration, we have two. In data warehouse projects, we might have multiple flowing into single target. Let's look at some examples. So this is not example from my real project, because I try to remove all sensitive data from my examples, so it was too much there. So just an example from another one. So what do we have here? So we have source system, we have entities, the attributes of these entities there, some descriptions, and then we have target source. The same, like, let's look at the opportunity. So it's something from Salesforce. The example is from Salesforce. Opportunity type, and we have opportunity type in this Vina Cube. Actually, it's some reporting system. Yeah. So, and you can see the rows 2 and 3. You see that in source system there are two separate attributes. In target system, they flow into one attribute. So data structure changes, and we can see how it changes. And there are some data validation rules here also added in this case. So that's how you can track how data is being transformed, moving from source to target. And these are actually data requirements. So if I would write a user story to do that, I would put this exact table in the acceptance criteria for that user story. Okay. Yeah. Any questions at this point?
No.
No questions? Okay. Okay, good. Then let's go to the most interesting stuff, SQL and data management tools. And let's have some interaction here and try to answer these one main question. Why would ABA actually need to know SQL? And do you think that an ABA working on data project, okay, ABA working on data project, I will add that condition. So please go to Mentimeter or scan this QR code to access, and please enter your answers, and I will ask Anna to share your screen. To save time for research, join data. Well, it's a very specific task. Technical understanding to get data for analysis, be on the same page to do flow charts. Okay, not sure how you may do flow charts, but maybe you will explain that. Project requires you learn SQL. Actually, that's how I get familiarized with SQL. It was required for a project. I had no choice. So I wasn't a volunteer, actually. To troll developers. Oh, yeah, that's... I don't think that you should do that, because if you don't want to make enemies. I would say that to be on the same page with developers, really, they start perceiving you differently when you are more technical, like when they see that you really understand what they are doing, the specifics, their challenges, and you actually help them to put solid requirements together. Not help, you are putting solid requirements together for them, and you help them to communicate those requirements. Like when you're working on data project, in most cases you will have really technical challenges, and developers themselves, many times they're having this hard time explaining and communicating. And if you are able to understand that challenge, you can help them explain it to even to other technical stakeholders. Really, that is my case when I have Ukrainian developers on my side. So we face some challenges with some complex table joins and like performance issues, and then we get together with technical stakeholders, like from United States, and I basically help to do that communication, to explain what are our challenges, what even our proposals to resolve certain issues, like by adding some additional attributes or applying like new logic. Yeah, but still this troll developer stands in the middle of this Mentimeter. Okay, yeah. Actually, in most cases, they do troll me when I share my queries. You know, they say, "Oh, your queries are so simple." Well, okay, I'm not a database developer. That's why my queries are so simple. So, in most cases, they will troll you. To be totally sincere. So let's go back to presentation. And I think I have started sharing my screen. Yeah. So from my perspective, when do I use SQL and data management tools? I use that first to reverse engineer the existing data structures. Like not every project will have, again, up-to-date entity relationship diagram. And if you are working on data project, you get to understand what is there for real, what are the data structures. Unfortunately, the only way in most cases is that you need to get your database credentials, log into database management tools, and take a look yourself. And based on what you see, create entity relationship diagram that you can use for your work and communication afterwards. You can use that to check what data is there. Like I named it like to confirm the data availability for new features. What do I mean by that? Like a stakeholder comes to you, a business stakeholder, and say, hey, I want to have this dashboard in my application showing like this parameter and this parameter. And the regular business analyst would say, yeah, okay, he will write down those requirements, go to developers, and only after that he will understand that it's impossible because we simply don't have the data. If you already understand that, if you can check what is there yourself, you can give an instant answer. Well, okay, it's not feasible, without going to developers. Like you may skip this, save a couple of days at least in this case. And you can, in addition to everything above, you may assess the data quality, like what is in your database, because data quality is a way issue on data projects. Like you may have incomplete data, incorrect data, inaccurate, like you may have duplicates, causing some issues in application. And in order to check what's happening, you may go to database and write some queries and check the data itself, the actual records, not the structure, but actual records. So what are the database tools that, what is that? So basically, the database management tools are tools that provide you a UI to interact with database directly. So we all interact with database, but use an application, user interface. Like when you create, new order, you open this form, enter some parameters, click save, and an application forms a request that goes to database, and your record is created there. And if you want to check what is there, you again go to application, you set some filters, like in application, like give me all my customers with these parameters, and the application, it brings it back to you. But data management tools, they can allow you to interact with data, not through the application, because an application allows you to interact with the data only in a way designed by developer. Like you have only these filters, you have you may pick only this data, only customers, but not, I don't know, prospects or users. But in database, you can access everything, all data. And using SQL, structured query language, you may form the exact queries, like ask specifically what you're looking for, like give me all customers registered for this period, like in New York, and whatever your imagination goes. So you can ask anything. Yeah, so that is why. And how? So I will show you a couple of tools. So the first tool is called Microsoft SQL Server Management Studio. This is the tool that I've started with. It only allows you to interact with the SQL Server. This is a specific technology, database technology. And actually, I can quickly demo you this one because I have my local server installed. So yeah, I've already logged into SQL Server Management Studio. So I have all my servers. In this case, you can see only my local, this is my local machine, my server, the SQL server that I've installed to my machine. Then I can see the databases. I have two databases here. So this is a sample database that I downloaded for one of courses that I lead in Subserve, and I can see the tables. Yeah, so all tables, and I can see the even attributes. of the tables, and let's pick the bigger one. And I can see the data in this table when it responds. Yeah, so you see it automatically added a simple query because it's a feature of SQL Management Studio. So it said it's SQL actually language, like select top 1,000 records from this table and give me these attributes, and you can see the data. Yeah, so you can create your own queries. Of course, I won't demonstrate it now. It will take much more time, but it's one tool. Another tool that I'm currently using is called dbeaver. It's a screenshot because it's a screenshot from my working environment. So this tool allows you to interact with different database system, not SQL Server only, but you can see that here I have Postgres, I have MySQL. These two are actually SQL Server and something else. So there is a bunch of options that dbeaver can allow you to work with. And the same, like you can see the servers, the databases, the tables, and the data. We have 7 minutes left, so I won't stop here for questions. Let's have a quick session at the end. So non-functional requirements at the top of our cake. So as I mentioned, so these are really critical for data-related project because they can jeopardize really badly the success of the whole story. And regardless that you have everything functioning, it can, if it functions too poorly, it will be unacceptable, and so the project will be failed, and you should be thinking about it from the very beginning. So the key, there can be a lot of non-functional, there are a lot of many quality attributes, and I would suggest to focus on these 4 that you can see in front of you. So availability. So if the software application available when it's needed, like how quickly it recovers from failures, what are the maintenance windows allowed, etc. The performance, how well the software handles like capacity, throughput, and response. Like if we're talking about reporting, look how fast report loads, how many users concurrently interact with the system it can handle. This is a really important attribute parameter to check. The number of users, I apologize. Yeah, scalability is another thing. Like if something is enough today, it doesn't mean that it will be enough in a year, because business grows, the number of user grows, maybe number of application grows, and you really need to account to that in order to not rework everything like in a month or a year even. So you need to think about the perspective here. And security. So 3 key points here. We need to make sure that only authorized users are access data. So the confidentiality of the information needs to be preserved here. So who sees what, basically? And what is more important, who should not see what information. Then the integrity of information, which means like who is allowed to update or delete in what cases, and this should be really tracked and authorized to keep your information integrity. And the third one is ability to verify actions. So this falls really into GDPR stuff, which is also data related. So we need to think about logs, about auditing logs, like logging actions, authenticating users who perform these actions, and allow for auditing. Yeah. So how to elicit, how to talk about that with the stakeholders. So couple of hints, let's say, tips here for you. So first, talk about usage patterns, like whether your system is transaction based, like you need to see the end user need to see changes after every transaction. So it's like real time stuff. Like, will it be large data set, write or retrieval based? So will it, if it's data warehouse, it's probably like retrieval, like you will have big reports that will go through a huge amount of data and extract it and just show it, display it to user. Will it be like time-based, like maybe heavier at the end of the month, lighter weekends? So check availability requirements here, location-based as well, priority-based, also business requirements. Maybe some departments, yeah, they have higher priority and they should have higher availability. So you should plan your resources equivalently. And regarding scalability, so talk about plans for new markets, new customers, number of users, about the future. Like, again, if something works today, doesn't mean that it will work in a year, or at least, well, maybe you may have system that covers today's requirement, but from scalability perspective, if you know that it will be insufficient in the future, you need to account for that expansion and to make this expansion at least possible. Yeah. And yeah, I think I will pause here. We have a minute for questions.
Okay, so I would assume SQL would be needed to understand the data structure, right?
And data structures as well, yeah. No, but not only them.
Which database management system is preferable for business analysts? Perhaps one is particularly popular?
Well, I actually showed you these two that I personally worked with. So if you have, depending on what database systems you have on your project, if you have SQL Server only, this will be totally fine enough. It's really straightforward. If you have multiple different systems and you need to see them all, so the Beaver also works fine. So these two are those that I worked with, and so developers work with them. I think they're fine for business analysts as well.
Can you elaborate on the data normalization?
Data normalization, this is a really much bigger conversation. So, well, it's a process of making data less redundant. Data less redundant in the system. Let's say, I'll say like that, and this presentation will be shared with you. And at the end, I will click. You will see this first link, business analysis data modeling. So I guess data normalization is explained pretty good there.
When do you use tables in acceptance criteria? When there are a lot of data?
When do I use tables in acceptance criteria? Well, when I specify acceptance criteria for that includes data mapping, so I specify tables there and attributes. So if I put together requirements for some report that need to be put together, I also specify the exact data points in database, like a table and a column that need to be pulled to this report.
What courses would you suggest to learn SQL?
You can see them on the screen. Yeah, so the links are there for SQL as well.
What is the value of the data analyst on the project? What are the most frequent areas you are helpful in?
Actually, I haven't met data analyst on my projects ever, so I cannot answer that question. I think that I'm partially data analyst because I had experience when I analyzed data, but not from databases, like some data from Pendo, the application that tracks user activity, you know. So I extract data from Pendo and then used the Power BI, like that business intelligence tools, to analyze the data, put together some reports, visualizing user activities, like I used it to understand what are the most used reports, the existing reports, for example. So that is kind of a data analyst area there, but I don't use that pretty often actually. And it's more like for prioritizing requirements, for working on new features, like to make sure that we're moving in the right direction, not for specific project requirements.
Have you worked with NoSQL database? If yes, what is the system? Is acquaintance with this system was more or less difficult than SQL DB?
I worked with a NoSQL system once, and it was Cosmos DB. So it wasn't like the objects were stored there in JSON files. So it's much much harder to find anything there if you're looking, but it was pretty straightforward. On my current project, we have a graph database, but I don't have access to that, so kind of cannot share experience. So only like dedicated developers are interacting with that one. Hopefully I'm not. Thankfully I'm not. Yeah, because the logic there is pretty mind-blowing how they work.
Creation of stored procedures must have for BA.
No, I have never created stored procedures by myself. Like all those cases that I mentioned, why would I use SQL? They don't involve having stored procedures. And basically, what is stored procedure? Stored procedure is some query, complex in most cases, that is being run by application from time to time, like scheduled query. Let's say it's a stored procedure, that's why it's called so. And it's purely developer stuff, so it's part of development. It's something that they you know, it's the UPRs that they are doing, you know, development work.
And I believe that's the last question. CBDA or DAMA? I believe it's about certifications.
CDBA, it's from IABA, I guess, right? Yeah, or database. What was the another one? It was
DAMA.
Oh,
Like
that was
DAMA.
Yeah, the one that I have. Okay, so I hesitated between those two, and the reason why I picked DAMA, that's how I pronounce it, DAMA certification, is that because it covers much wider range of data related stuff. So you get familiarized with data security, like data modeling, data quality, metadata, reference, master data. So I guess there is like a 10 different areas that are covered by DAMA certification, and that's why I've chosen it, because it was important for me to invest my time in preparation wisely. So to increase my knowledge, to improve it. But I actually, and the IIBA certification, CDMA, doesn't matter. So another one is more around data science specifics. So it's about data science projects, but it's more related to business analyst activities and what business analyst does, what business analysts, like how he elicits requirements, put them together, etc., interacts with stakeholders. DAMA certification, it's really not around business analysis itself. It's around data management. And so we have in software even architect who passed that certification as well. So I am a BA and he's an architect. And it worked for both of us because it's generic. It's about data management, not role specific, project role specific. But I plan actually to obtain the IIB certification as well in future as step 2.
And one more question. How do you trace NFRs with other requirements in data projects? In what way? What type of documentation to describe?
Well, I have a table. I have a document with all NFRs listed, like all quality attributes, and NFRs like the specific requirements for these quality attributes, like performance, like we need the runtime to have runtime of performance less than 20 seconds, for example. This will be my non-functional requirement for performance. And then I may have a specific user stories that are related to this requirement. If we need to make some specific adjustments, some dedicated development work to ensure this requirement is met. So I always do that for security requirements, because in order to make something secure, you need to actually do some development work to restrict some to enforce some security rules, to implement them. So I always add links to requirements, like to Jira tickets if you use Jira or other task tracking tool.
Thank you. That was the last one.
Okay, thank you all. Thank you for having me today.
Thank you, Anna. That was very interesting. We had a lot of thank you comments in the chat. Very insightful webinar with a lot of examples. So thanks a lot. And also thanks to the other Anya for reading the questions. Some of them were really tough to read, but you did great. So thank you all for joining us today, and stay tuned for more exciting webinars from us. Good evening and bye.